So you've just launched your store. It's getting clicks, like traffic is starting to come in, but nobody's buying it. And you have no idea why. Look, I see this all the time. Someone launches their brand new store, they run some ads, people are visiting, but maybe 0 sales are actually coming in, or perhaps 1 or 2. Then nothing, crickets. And they think that the problem is their product or their ads, or maybe Facebook hates them. But 90% of the time, the problem is your store. And I know this because I've been in exactly the same place for almost a decade now. I've helped thousands of founders build 7- and even 8-figure e-commerce brands. And I can tell you with absolute certainty that the difference between a store that makes $100 a month or one that makes $100,000 a month isn't the product or the niche. It's the sequence and the order in which you actually fix things. And so in this video, I'm gonna be breaking down the biggest reasons that your store isn't converting, along with 3 actionable steps to fix each individual one. By the end of it, you're going to know exactly what's stopping people from buying and how you can fix it today. So imagine you're trying to fill a bucket with water, but the bucket has 3 holes in it. 1 in the bottom, 1 in the middle, and then kind of like right near the top there. Most people start by patching the hole at the top. They're fixing their email marketing, they're optimizing their product descriptions, they're reaching out to influencers, but meanwhile, all the water is pouring out of the bottom hole. And they're not realizing that the real problem is that they're paying $5 to get someone to visit their website when it should be 50 cents. So here's what happens with most e-commerce stores. You launch, you run some ads, and when the sales don't come in immediately, it's kind of this mad panic. And in that panic, you try and fix everything at once. So you start tweaking your homepage, you adjust some ad targeting, you change your product photos, you test new prices, and you're basically everywhere and nowhere at exactly the same time. And I get it. Look, when your store isn't working, it feels like you need to do something, almost like anything to turn it around. But when you try and fix 10 things at once, you don't actually fix anything at all. What you're doing is you're spreading yourself so thin that nothing gets the attention that it actually needs to be done well. But the moment you understand the right sequence, everything fits in. The game is actually really simple. There are 3 critical metrics that determine whether your store succeeds or fails. And the order you fix them in is absolutely everything. So let me walk you through this step by step, starting with the one that, to be honest, most people just completely ignore. Step number 1, fix your traffic costs first. The first thing you need to do is understand this. If you can't get people to visit your website at a cost that makes sense, nothing else matters. It doesn't matter how amazing your product page is or how persuasive your copy is. If you're paying too much for traffic to visit, you're never going to be profitable. And yet, that is the thing that most beginners overlook. They assume that, the ads are just expensive, and that's just the way it is. So they move on to start, optimizing their website, thinking that that's where the problem is, okay? But let's say, for example, you're selling a product for $50 and your cost to fulfill that product is $20. That gives you $30 left over to work with. Now, if you're paying $5 per click and 1 out of every 50 people who click actually buy, you just spent $250 to make 1 sale. You're losing money on every single transaction. This is the hole right at the bottom of the bucket. And until you patch it, everything else you do is absolutely pointless. But once you fix it, you can afford to test more offers, you can scale your ads faster, and most importantly, you can actually start making money. So then the question becomes, okay, Sasha, how do you do it? Look, it all comes down to 2 things. Number 1 is your offer, and then number 2 is your creatives. Your offer is the angle, right? It's the hook. It's the reason that someone stops scrolling right in that feed and pays you attention. And then the creatives are the actual videos. It's the images, the things that people see in your ads. And here's what most people get wrong. They launch a couple of ads, and then when those ads stop performing, maybe after a week or 2 weeks, they think the product is dead, and they start questioning or doubting. But that's not how this works, because your ads have this life cycle. At first, they perform great. Your cost per click is low. You're getting tons of traffic. Everything feels amazing. But then over time, your audience sees the same ad over and over and over again, and they get tired of it. And suddenly, your cost per click starts climbing and profitability disappears. But the top brands don't let their ads die. They're constantly testing new hooks, testing new angles, testing new videos, because they understand that the game isn't about finding one winning ad. It's about having a system for consistently producing fresh creatives that keep your traffic costs low. So here's what you do. You start testing different angles. If the first ad is focused on the problem your product solves, make one that focuses on the lifestyle benefit. If your first video was a testimonial, try a product demonstration. The more you test, the more you learn, and the lower your costs will actually stay. I don't know, this all sounds like, look, it's a lot of work, Sasha, but this is where the game is won or lost. You can have the best product in the world, but if you can't get people to your site at a profitable cost, you don't have a business. Step 2, optimize your conversion rate. Okay, let's assume for a second you've fixed your traffic costs. Now, people are clicking on your ads and they're landing on your website, but they're not buying at a level that's profitable. And you're sitting there and you're thinking to yourself, maybe my product isn't good enough. But 9 times out of 10, that's not the problem. The problem is that your website isn't doing its job. It's not building enough trust, and it's not making people feel like this product was made for them, right? When someone lands on your product page, they're asking themselves really 3 questions. Do I trust this brand? Will this actually solve my problem? And is the money worth it? If any of these questions aren't answered clearly and quickly, prospective customer will leave. But here's the thing, once you fix your conversion rate, and even just a tiny little bit, the impact is massive. Let's say, for example, you go from 2% of your visitors buying to 3%. You've just increased your revenue by 50% without spending a single extra dollar on ads. So here's what you need. Number 1 is get high quality images that show the product being used in real life, not just sitting on a random white background. Number 2, write copy that's very simple, very clear, explaining the problem that your product solves and why somebody should actually care. Number 3, social proof in the form of reviews, testimonials, and real customer photos. And finally, have one call to action that tells people exactly what to do next. But there's one thing that people completely miss, and it's called congruence. When somebody clicks on your ad, they kind of have this image in their mind of what they're about to see. And if your product page doesn't match that expectation, they bounce extremely quickly. Let's say your ad shows a young woman using your product, smiling, looking happy, but when someone clicks through to your product page, they see generic stock photos of maybe a more mature, different looking person. That disconnect is instant. People think, oh geez, this doesn't feel like it's for me. I'm not sure if this is really a product that's designed for me. So make sure the images, the language, the entire vibe of your product page matches what people saw in the ad. Now, here's the biggest mistake that I see on product pages specifically. People list out all of these features made with premium materials, 5 available colors, 30-day guarantee, but no one cares about these features. They care about the outcomes and how this product is going to change their life. For instance, I had a client named Casey, right? She runs this brand called Pax Co, and she sells these simple products. They're conversation card decks. When I first saw her website, it was all about the cards, the quality of the card stock, how beautiful the packaging was, how many cards were in each deck, and the sales were okay, nothing special. So what we did is we completely shifted the messaging from the product to the transformation, okay? Instead of talking about the cards, we started talking about what the cards do for you. We showed couples reconnecting, people crying tears of joy, marriages being reignited, and the intimacy being restored because of these cards. And their conversion rate, it doubled. The same product, the same price, the same traffic, but now people could actually see themselves experiencing the outcome that they wanted. So when you're writing your product page copy, ask yourself this: what does someone's life look like after they use this product? And step 3, increase your average order value. All right, so now you've got your traffic cost down and people are actually converting. You're making sales and the store is working. But now you can start making a lot more money from the exact same customers. This is what we call average order value, or how much each customer spends per order. And look, most people, they completely ignore this because they're so focused on just getting more and more and more new customers. But honestly, the hardest part is getting someone to buy the first time. And once they've decided to purchase, they've pulled out their credit card. That's the perfect moment to get them to spend more. Think about it like this. You just spent money on ads to get the person to your site. You've just invested time and energy into building trust, convincing them to buy, and now they're about to check out with a $30 order. Meanwhile, you could have just as easily made it a $60 order with almost zero extra effort, which is why when you optimize your average order value, everything changes for your business. You make more profit per customer and you can afford higher ad costs. Now, what I want to do is I want to show you exactly how to do this. The first strategy is what we call bundling. So instead of just selling one product, you create packages that make people feel like they're getting more value by buying more. This works because people love feeling like they're getting a deal or a bargain. So let's say, for example, you sell water bottles. Don't just sell people one water bottle. Create a bundle with a cleaning kit, perhaps a carrying strap, and position it as the complete hydration system. Make the bundle feel like it's almost like the obvious choice, because it is better value. Because when people see that they can get a lot more for just a little bit extra money, they'll take it. And the second strategy is volume discounts. This is one of the most powerful tactics that you can use, because with this, you show people that buying 2 or 3 products is a significantly better deal than buying just one. Here's exactly how it works. You see, one bottle for $30, and then right next to it, you see 2 bottles for $50, save $10, and then 3 bottles for $70, save $20. Now what happens is your brain starts comparing them. Suddenly, buying just one bottle, you're kind of thinking it might be a bad deal. People think, look, if I'm already buying one, I might as well get 2 and save money. And before you know it, they're checking out with a much higher average order value. I worked with a brand called Blank Hydrate. And what we did is we restructured their buy box using this exact strategy. Instead of defaulting to a single product purchase, what we did is we made the 2-pack the most prominent option. And we clearly showed how much the customer would actually save. And the result was their average order value was increased significantly because we tapped into what's called this fairness bias. It means that people want to feel like they're getting the best deal. Now, the third strategy is to sell complementary products. Once you have one product working well, add related items that naturally go together. Like if you're selling skincare, for example, offer a cleanser with moisturizer. If you're selling fitness gear, offer resistance bands with a yoga mat, for example. And this works because it's way easier to sell to somebody that already trusts you rather than find a brand new customer. They've already decided that they really like your brand. Now, getting them to add just one more item to their cart, look, that's the easy part. Because when someone is about to check out, that's when they want your product the most, okay? You're basically selling at the moment of highest desire. So now you've got the main 3 steps to upscale your store, and they need to happen in this exact order, okay? So here's what I want you to do. Pick one of these 3 areas and commit to it wherever your brand needs it for the next 7 days. Do not move on until you can see real progress. Because the moment you stop spreading yourself thin and start focusing on the right thing at the right time, look, that is when everything changes.